Well, welcome everybody to the first of our training webinars with Thrive Refugee Enterprise. My name is Alexi Boyd and we're really thrilled to be joining you today on this webinar. We've got some fantastic content coming up that's going to educate you in your business and have a couple of chats with a couple of our clients from Thrive who are experts in rideshare. Why are they experts? Because they've been with us and they've been growing their business just like you are. So first, I'd like to acknowledge the country on which we're meeting today, the traditional owners. For me, that's the Darug people of the Guringai Nation, and recognise their continued connection to land, waters and culture. We, of course, pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend anybody that might be joining us on the webinar today from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. So as I mentioned, my name's Alexi Boyd. You're joining us here on Thrive. It's great to be talking with you. And if I could just ask for everyone to ask any questions after the webinar by chatting with your clients and get in touch with us if we can help in any way. So let's kick off. So first of all, today we're going to be talking about how we help our clients. We're going to be saying what you need to do to start and grow and get more out of your rideshare business, get more business and more sales. Then we're going to interview a couple of our clients who have been with us for a while from Thrive, who have already got their rideshare businesses and what makes them successful. And then we're going to talk about some basic bookkeeping and accounting for business and then say thank you to everyone. So today's webinar is being presented by myself, Alexi Boyd. We've got Gus and Daniel. Many of you will be familiar with Gus and Daniel. Gus is our head of the New South Wales team and Daniel heads up our Queensland team. As you know, we've got lots of clients here to help. So reach out to us if we can help in any way. So let's talk a little bit about how Thrive helps their clients. So it's a really wonderful organisation and we're actually all over Australia. We help people with lots of different types of businesses from lots of different backgrounds. We've been around since 2015 and we've been helping clients to set up small businesses as well as get into employment in some cases. We offer business advice. And we also offer some financial support as well through our loan book. Our loans are always low interest and we help our clients for the whole of the time of that loan as well. People like Daniel and Gus are absolutely paramount to making sure that our clients have successful businesses, but also something that's viable and that can last a very long time. We also try and connect you with other businesses similar to yours and also support our clients with networking events and finding out where they can get help from other agencies. It's not just about the business, but it's about the person. And we're really proud that what we do is we support that person for the whole journey and we're always there for them years down the track. We actually have a client advisory council made up of lots of our ex-clients and current clients that help us to make the program better. And one of the things they suggested was we start doing some education, and that's what this webinar is all about. Today we're focusing on rideshare, but in the future we'll be looking at other types of businesses and broadly how you can set up a business and help you grow. How can you help us? Well, we would love it if you could tell your story about your Thrive journey, reconnect your friends, family, and anyone else who's interested in setting up a business who themselves might be a refugee, and connect them with Thrive and see how we can help them. So what we might do now is kick off with the first topic today, and that's all about how to start a rideshare business. Now, we know lots of people on the call are going to be thinking, I've already got a business, but there's lots to learn, lots of things that you can make better along the way. So let's kick off with you, Daniel. First, I'll get you to say hi to everyone, introduce yourself, what do you do at Thrive, and then tell us about what you've learned from your clients in rideshare to make things get up and running.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alexi. As I've been introduced, I'm Daniel. I look after Queensland and the Northern Territory. My role at Thrive is really to be with you in your journey to empower you in your business, increasing income and looking to what you're trying to achieve. Rideshare, be it Uber, Didi, or some of the other platforms, it's something that a lot of our clients haven't done at one stage, either as in a part-time, other supporting to other other income or business, or they actually are full-time drivers where that is their business and that is what supports them and their family and is helping them to grow. Our role really is not just, a lot of people know us for the financing, where we do finance cars for rideshare, but it really is for the business support, be it from, the insurance, how you're approaching, how am I going, things like this webinar where we've got some drivers. We really get people talking to each other. I guess being the first speaker is really about how you get started into rideshare, but even just to plant the seed and get people thinking, each of you will be doing rideshare for different reasons, as I mentioned. Either it's going to be a part-time, it can be in between jobs, or we've got some people that are very successful. That will determine some of the decisions that you make, how you go about rideshare. Depending on eligibility, how long you've had a license, can you do just Uber or Didi, or do you need to start on one of the other platforms? Some people do transition into taxi, though we're primarily looking at rideshare. And then how do you invest? Do you start with your own vehicle? Do you do a rental? And where you position yourself. For anyone to getting started and bring it right back to the basics, rideshare is a business. You need to register yourself for an ABN, sole trader. Doesn't need to be anything more fancy like a company or so forth. That's something that we can help you with. Anything that is rideshare, you are required to have an GST, registered business. So a lot of people think that you need to hit the 75,000 a year milestone. That is not correct for rideshare. As soon as you're earning that $1 where you're taking passengers, it is an HO requirement that you are GST registered. Again, something that we can help you with. Licensing, each state is a little bit different, so I'll cover it more broadly. Using Queensland as an example, but generally speaking, you've got to have an open license. So not so much on your provisionary license or your green or red or your P1 or P2, depending on what state you're on. It needs to be open, and you need to prove that you've had a license for a minimum of 3 years. That can include overseas as well. Okay, so a lot of people think that they've got their opens and have got to wait 3 years. Well, if you can prove, and not everybody can, I understand paperwork, depending on the circumstances, can be difficult. But if you can prove 3 years, you generally can go for Uber, and DD is very similar. Some of the other delivery platforms is a little bit easier, but that is for rideshare.
Hey, Daniel, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So when you set up an ABN, I'll just get you to pop yourself on mute because we've got that echo again. When you've got an ABN, is it always a good idea to come through Thrive to set up all those little sections of setting up a business? Because I know some websites will cost $200 to get an ABN, which shouldn't be the case. Is it a good idea to talk to Thrive right at the beginning to get all those parts of running a business set up properly?
Most definitely. We've got information where we can guide you through the ATO website and other resources, so you can be informed and comfortable yourself before you do proceed. But we don't charge for our services. So be it from the ABN registration, even a partnership and so forth, not that we draw up the agreements, but if you're talking about your basic sort of business, definitely, and GST included as well.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah. Going back to really thinking of what you're trying to get started, licensing, having your open license and been driving for 3 years is general minimum that you're required, but you really should decide on how you're going to start. You can start with your own vehicle. Uber has increased for most states and territories in Australia. They've gone from 10 years up to 15 years, as long as you had a 5-star NCAP rating on that vehicle on the year that it was released in Australia. So as long as you're meeting those 2 thresholds and your car is in a good, presentable condition, that's both interior and external, generally speaking, it is acceptable for Uber and Didi, and we can guide you through that as well. But depending on how much you're driving, you need to make sure that is a car that's going to be reliable and that it's going to be cost effective, especially now that cost of living pressure has gone up. Petrol is forever increasing, but we are facing a little bit tougher economic times. make sure that you do have a car that is reliable, that is going to be cost effective. I've got many people where to try, they're using the personal car, which is great, and I recommend it. But if you are getting into some more serious hours in regular use, you really want to avoid some large mechanical bills. In a car of low kilometers, or a lot of people choose a rental. Rental can be costly, but it's something that some people do while they're trying out the business, while they're expanding and seeing it. Especially people that are going between part-time and full-time. And when we're talking full-time, I'm talking about your 40, 50 hours a week or thereabouts. There's many companies like Splend, Keys, even your main companies like Europcar and Hertz do it as well. But those rentals for a hybrid car can be anywhere from 260 a week plus kilometers to even over 400 a week. I'll even ask that question of one of our drivers that will join for an interview later, who's gone through that recently. And really trying it out is really important to understand where you're going to target yourself. Some of the hybrid and electric cars, you get priority, both with Uber and Didi, where you got Uber Green. Some people that really want to target airport runs, and depending on the time of day and night, they might go for Uber XL, which entails a 7-seater vehicle. Or some people will just have your 5-seater smaller Corolla or similar, where they might do an Uber X. It's really important on how hard you want to go for that business. There's a lot of people investing in electric vehicles, for example. Electric vehicles have a higher cost, that they're more expensive to buy. But for our full-time drivers, where they are saving themselves $250, $350, or even $400 a week in petrol for your very full-time drivers, the maths of that becomes an easy choice to make. That's something that we help you as well. We definitely will go through a forecast and understand the money you're trying to make and your expenses. But those are all things that you need to think about.
Daniel, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So you talked about the difference between, if we look at one platform like Uber, all the different types, the Uber Green, Uber XL, the one with the Maxi, I think you called it. Are they the sort of things you need to think about before you're buying a car and before you set up on the app? Or can you change in your decision about how you use the app later on? Can you switch and change, for example, once you've decided to do one thing? I mean, it's one thing to buy a car, but yeah, is it possible to change?
You can definitely change. And a lot of things that people are starting out when we're saying they should go into rentals or use their own car for a smaller period of time or buy a new car, you can definitely change. Every time you put a car in Queensland, for example, you do have to get that car inspected and registered for Uber, which is a $275 fee plus an $80 fee. So you don't want to be changing every week, but yes, and you should. As I said, when you're starting out where you might use your own car or rental, well, long term, you probably want to have your own car where you're paying a lower cost. And even between Uber and Didi, for example, and I think Gus will touch that on a little bit more as well. But you've got to decide on how many platforms you want to do and the time of day.
Thanks, Daniel. Looks like there's quite a lot of thinking to do before you set yourself up. But it's good to know that you can change later. We're echoing again, sorry. But it's good to know that you can change your mind later. And just to repeat that, it's probably a good idea to reach out to Thrive when you're trying to make that decision, and all those questions you would ask yourself. Our Thrive client managers can walk you through the different options, and also, as Daniel mentioned, the different costs as well when you change. So the last bit we've got in your presentation, Daniel, is what sort of specific record keeping do you need for rideshare? We're going to cover accounting and bookkeeping later for general business needs, but what specific things do you need, especially when you start out, for rideshare businesses?
Yeah, and not to take too much away from that presentation, Alexi, but rideshare, and a lot of people think, oh, I'm just doing a little bit of Uber. It is a business like any other. When you're doing your taxation, you are able to claim all your business expenses. You really want to make sure, even from the car, a lot of people, when they're renting or they're purchasing a car, you've got to be able to claim back things like your depreciation, your GST, and if you are getting finance, potentially interest deductions as well. But when you obtain that vehicle, that you're doing it in the same name as the trading entity. And by that means, if I'm renting it, I'm not putting in my wife's name or my cousin's name. It is the person that is driving. If using your car, again, you can claim that as an expense from the depreciation and running expenses. So it's just, if you're using an app or other records, and we can guide you through that, your fuel, your insurances, your servicing, your tires, make sure it's all coming out of the same account to make it easy. But they're all business expenses. Your accountant, and even small things like sunglasses and so forth. But
yeah, it sounds to me like there's a specific list that you can claim if you're in rideshare, which is really handy to know from the beginning. I guess I've just got a quick question because I just thought of it while you were talking then. If you're using your personal car, do you also have to keep track of how much you're using it for personal use and for Uber? Because all of those expenses will have to be proportioned only for the business use that you're claiming.
most definitely, and there's things like logbooks that you can keep. There is some data that the Uber app gives you, but so something like a logbook for a specified period of time is probably a better way to go, especially if you're using more than one platform. If you're using Uber and Didi, but yes, but you would apportion it.
Fantastic. Look, thank you so much, Daniel. I actually learned quite a great amount if I was thinking about starting my own rideshare business as well. Entirely possible. We're going to move now for our second topic, and we're going to talk about growing a rideshare business. And then straight after that, we're going to be interviewing a couple of our wonderful Thrive clients who have joined us today in situ in their cars, which I think is very apt. So over to you, Gus. We've talked about how to start a rideshare business and what you need to think about before. Let's talk about how to grow. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Alexi, and thanks, Daniel. And thanks, everyone, for joining in, and those who are listening as well. Look, one thing we need to look at, this is a business. And the way we think of a business is customers are paying us our money, the money that we are earning. So who are our customers in this case? They're the passenger that actually we take and we drive them around. Now, if a passenger is happy, obviously they're going to be tipping us more money and they're going to give us a better rating. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about, first of all, the work, when is the best time and all of that, and the availability and the location. I'm going to talk a little bit later on about how you can improve your rating as well and become a 5-star rating on a regular basis. To obviously the platform itself. Now we talk there's different type of platform in the rideshare. Even the taxi now, they have a platform that you can log and on an app. But basically, majority of people who are doing rideshare will be either Uber or Didi. And like Daniel said, some of them are converting now into taxi as well, going back there. But when is the best time to drive Uber? Obviously, when people are moving around. And if we look at it from that perspective, normally first thing in the morning, people want to go to work. And that's probably one of the busiest time in the morning is, somewhere around 6 to 9 o'clock in the morning. This is in the morning. And then the next time is when people want to go back from work to home. And that's another busy time of the day. And people moving around also going to pick up kids and stuff like that. That could be a busy time of the day. And you've got the night, depending on what activities available in a particular town or city that you're in. That could be, a match of some sort, or could be a concert, or could be something to that effect, where there's going to be a lot of movement of people coming to those areas and venues. Now, in terms of location, I know speaking to a lot of sort of Uber driver and rideshare drivers, they prefer the city and the airport locations because there's a lot of movement there. Many people go to the city to work, they travel, they go to the airport. So they prefer those long runs, what we call them, and where because they could earn more money per ride. And that's something that it depends on where you live and where you are located. You always want to go and look at what's the best route for you from your area or from a busy area where you can generate more money. Obviously, when you first start running your Uber business, you're not going to know all of this, but you're going to, it's a trial and error sort of things. You're going to try different routes at different time of the day. And some days, even in the middle of the day, you might find yourself busy, but it may not be consistent. So these are the things, is a trial and error. The beauty of it, in terms of rating, especially from Uber, for the first 500 rides, you're actually, this is what they measure, the rating in there. And I want to talk a little bit about the rating. Now, the Uber rating, you always want to be around the 5 mark. So they rate them from 1 to 5. And Uber never, suggests when you go below a certain number, they're going to drop you off. But they sort of work around the 4.6, you need to be above 4.6. And the way the rating is calculated based on an average of 1 to 500 sort of ride, and they take the average of that. And so if you're rating, if you get a one complaint, like just a simple complaint, they're not gonna drop you off straight away. However, if there is a major incident and the police called and more like that, then they will drop you off straight away. So it is important that actually you keep your rating up and you keep the different rate in terms of from your passenger or the client that you're working with or you're taking around, that they keep your average up. Now, how do you do that? This is a good question. Obviously, there's many things that you can do on your side to build that sort of what we call a quick sort of relationship with your passenger in that sense. I look at it from any perspective that when you're running your business, every passenger that comes in there is your client. And obviously that client can tip you on the spot. So as soon as they finish the ride, if they're happy with the ride, they can give you more money than what you were paying for the ride itself. So the idea is how you keep your 5-star Uber rating. There's so many things that you could do. You can, in terms of improving, you can have a smooth ride, how you ride your car, you're not in a hurry, you're not taking shortcuts, all of these things. You ride smooth ride, what we called it. You also, what you could do is making sure the car is very clean. And this is very important because a lot of people complain about the taxi not being clean. They have a smell in them and all of that. So it's important that you actually keep your car clean all the time, inside and out, and even have a sort of nice smell in it. The other thing is have something like what we call like little goodies in there, maybe a bottle of water, a bit of a lolly or something to that effect, something, the sweetener in there that actually can make the client feel, okay, maybe it's a hot day, I need a drink or something to that effect. That helps in that area. Sometimes gesture is very good. It's actually open the doors and helping the passengers with their luggage. And so that actually also will boost your rating. That's very important, especially when people are traveling to, going to the airport and stuff like that. That part is really helpful in that area. Learn your streets. When you're traveling, going around, learn your street. You become like a travel agent in that area. So your area, where you're going. It's important. I know initially it may be hard, but that's how you learn especially the area that you're selecting you're opting to take it from there. You learn where you want to go and learn the area itself. One of the things that not many Uber drivers do, and which I found it very good actually, because most of the Uber drivers, they follow the navigation. And sometimes if I'm going to my house, I know the best route to go from the airport to my house. I know the shortest one. I know the one that's actually the most efficient. So ask the passenger, would you like me to go through the navigation, or would you guide me through how to get to your house? That's actually a very important one. I don't see a lot of drivers do it. And so you can, and that way you can get the passenger involved, and actually they can take you a shortcut, and they'll tip you more. And that's the whole idea that you want. Sometimes one of the things is, like I said, you can become a tour guide, even for people who are coming new to the country or to the city or the town. You can provide some little knowledge about the area as well. Be creative, have fun, talk about culture, your culture. Doesn't matter. That's actually fun. But a lot of people are interested, so don't be shy about talking about yourself a little bit. And things obviously within moderation. You don't have to talk about your personal issues. That's not the area there that you want to go. Like I said, have snack and have water handy just in case someone needs it, someone wants it, something feels like it. It's important. And be mindful of the temperature. Always ask, is it too hot? Is it too cold? And just adjust the room temperature according to the client comfort zone. So that way they're feeling good about the ride with you. And enjoy every ride. Like I know sometimes we're not at our best, but it's important that the passenger doesn't know where we're at. But you need to be at your best at every ride, and be able to provide what we call a joyful ride to our client. So this is some tips in there on some of the things that you could do to actually improve, first of all, your rating, but also you can increase the tips that come in to you from the passenger there. Now, the question is, which is better to do? Is it Uber? Is it DD? Is it, that sort of things? We know Uber charges hefty basically they take a cut, and they're now in the 23 to 27% that they take. They do provide a lot more rides, where DD, they take less cut. They can take about 15%, but they have less rides at the moment, although they're growing and obviously you make more money. There's been some comparison between the average of what an Uber driver make per kilometer driving Uber compared to DD. And the number is you make $1.51 per kilometer driving Uber, where you make $1.70 per kilometer when you drive DD. So obviously you make more money. The thing is, you want more work. So having the two platforms is a great idea to actually be able to work both of them, and be able to toggle between the two and check, pick up the ride that you feel best for you, and take it from there. Now, keep in mind, the actual rating from the platform is dictated in terms of when they will cut you off the platform, is based on the area or the city. So it's not an overall thing, or this is where we'll cut you off, because the way DD and Uber works on these things is they take the average in a particular area, and they work in that area to see, in terms of number of complaints, etc., and rating. So, but our recommendation always, and that's what we look at from our perspective as well, is if your rating is higher than 4.6 or 4.5, 4.6, that means you're doing a good job, especially if you're doing like thousands of rides and you have that high rating. That's extremely good. Yeah.
Gus,
Any
thank
question?
you so much. That was really fantastic. Actually, I really enjoyed you going through all the ways that you can have a good rating, and it made me think of all the times I've jumped in an Uber versus jumping in a taxi, and what I think of when I think of a good driver and somebody who makes the journey really pleasant. So thank you so much for sharing all that knowledge. We're going to turn to our two wonderful guests today. First, I have to say a big thank you for them taking time out of their day to talk to us. We've got Mungo Bulimwengo and also Mujahid Hussein. Thank you so much for joining us both. Now, if you guys want to jump off mute, I might ask you a few questions. Daniel, why don't you ask a question of Mungo first, and then we can kick it off that way.
It's a bit unfair because we go a long way back. So,
but we all do with all our clients.
It is, yeah. So, Mungo, and I guess is a question because I'm very interested. You do Uber a little bit differently to other people, where a lot of people do concentrate on your heavy Friday, Saturday nights, and your night times and so forth. You take a different approach, and you also live between Brisbane and Gold Coast. I'm giving you a bit of your background here, but whereas an area that is not always as busy, right, as maybe Brisbane City or the Gold Coast itself. What's your thought process, both of when to drive and where to drive, and how did you come to that conclusion?
Thank you very much for having me anyway. And thanks for for Gus for giving us the tips that we should keep in mind to have our ratings up. I'm currently sitting at 5. I've been there for quite some time now, which is good. And of course, there are a few tips that you've mentioned that I should take on board as well. But answering Daniel's question, I think I was lucky enough to have my brother, my younger brother, doing Uber before I joined Uber. He kind of gave me the tips on where to drive, when to drive, and what time to drive. For me, I think very early in the morning is all right for me. I start at latest 4 in the morning. Depending on the area I live in Logan. Logan is not busy at all at around that time. So the first thing I do in the morning is turn my car on straight to the city, and there are a lot of trips there to go to the airport. By the time I get to, if I start at 4, by the time I get to around 9, 10, Monday through Friday, I'm looking at $250. Around 9, 9:30, 10 in the city, it's not all right. It's not okay. It's not busy because a lot of people are coming into the city and it's busy. The traffic is heavy. So around that time, I get away from the city, because if I decided to work in the city around that time, I only get this the 6 minutes trip, and then you're paid $6. I'd rather go for the long trip, just like what Gus was talking about. And then at around let's say just between 12 and 2 o'clock, it's busy around that time as well. But as soon as people start knocking off from work, you start getting busy again on the road. You get stuck on the road. So at around that time, I stay away from the city as well. So for me, I would say the best time for me is early in the morning, Monday through Friday, starting from 4 to latest 4. Latest 4. Saturday, Sunday for me is a different story. I don't intend to. I've worked once starting from 3 in the morning, but because you never know the type of the person you'll carry at around time. So Saturday and Sunday, I start at 6. But on Saturday and Sunday, there's more money than Monday through Friday. If I work 10 hours on a Friday, I mean on a Saturday, that's good money. That's really, really good money.
Munga,
I don't know if
really,
I've answered most of your question, Daniel.
that was really interesting, actually. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Yeah,
And
I was going to say it's a bit unfair as well that you can say you start at 4 in the morning. We've had conversations at 3:30 in the morning because I also get up quite early. So I think we both up at that time of the morning every day.
Thanks, Munga. Let's turn to Gus now. Mujahid, thank you so much for joining us and taking your time out of your day to talk to Thrive. Gus, how about asking a question about how Mujahid started and made decisions about what he was going to buy or do or work out how he was going to run his rideshare business?
Well, Mujahid, you've been with us for a while, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. And Mujahid has been driving Uber how many years now?
Oh, a long time.
So he's an old driver. And he keeps repeating and coming back to us. He loves our service and he loves Thrive and we love him. And we just keep, working together on that. But Mujahid, just tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us about how you started, right?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm happy to see you guys because you guys helped me out, especially Gus. He's very good man. I remember the time since I come with him, since I meet him, since I requested the loan, everything. I remember each day. So thank you so much again. So I started Uber since Uber arrived to Sydney. I started by the time, and honestly, it was very tough. I don't have any amount to buy a good car, so like it was pressure on me on one side to buy a car. Then I was hearing from the people. Then if you can't maintain the rating of Uber, they close the account. So like a lot of people who bought cars straight away, so they have two pressure. One pressure, they new to Uber from the customer, they don't know where to go. And the second thing, it was like they spend a lot of money on the car. So I was lucky by the time when I request gas and they gave me loan. So it was on me on only one pressure because of the customer. That's it. The other side, I was relaxed. I was just paying the loan separately. So yeah, I was. So that I can suggest for everyone to apply through the trail, because I remember by the time when I was trying to buy a car, I applied to each bank. I was very high interest rate. A lot of stories. Yeah. So I was lucky. I started job in 2014. I think since I arrived Uber to Sydney. So sorry, if I go to the other way, you can stop me and ask me anything you want to ask. Yeah, sorry. So everything is good. I'm happy now. So and I work very well. So my rating never drop. 4.98, always 5.59, 5.98. So I haven't did anything special to the customer, like what God said to give lollies or something. No, I never did that. To be honest with you guys, even I'm a friendly person, so that's a different way. But I haven't done many things, but still I was good with the customer. I don't know why my rate doesn't go that dropped that much. A lot of my friends they have lollies, everything, but still the rate drop, and then they ask me. I suggest them. So I don't have any issue, to be honest with you. I have complete more than 40,000 trips, maybe more, because I'm sure from Didi, from Ola, from Uber. But I have never had any problem with the customers with those things, because Uber gives you all facilities. So there is no point to argument or to whatever something with the customer whenever something they drink, they drunk, and that a special night for them, especially weekend. So no, I don't really go with that things. So I'm happy from beginning, to be honest with you guys. And since now, so yeah, it's getting quiet. That's a different story. Everything is changed. But yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Mujahid, thank you so much. That's really interesting. And I think you've just answered the question as to why your rating is high. It's because you're friendly and you talk to people and you're happy to have a chat. I like what you said there about just letting the app deal with any difficulties and any problems. Is that something that you do? And I'd ask the same question from Munga. If you have a problem, how do you try and solve it? Obviously, you've got a customer there. You don't want any problems. But then do you let the app do it? Munga, you first.
I think the first thing that comes to my, if I have a problem, I go to Uber straight away and tell them my problem. If they are in a position of solving it, they solve it. If no, then no. There's no point of, there's no day I've argued with the customer, even if I think they might have done anything wrong, which is against Uber principles. I don't raise it with them. Mine is to raise that issue with Uber, and then Uber will either get back to me or get to the customer. Yeah.
That's good advice. Thank you. And how about you, Mujahid, with your 4,000 trips and all those amazing rides that you've done? How do you handle difficult situations? Oh, I fear that Mujahid might be on. Yeah. He might be frozen. So we'll come back to him in a moment. Munga, did you decide to stick with Uber from the beginning, or have you changed and flipped between different services?
What do you mean by the services? Do you mean
different apps? Sorry, different apps.
Okay. I've not done Didi. I've only been doing Uber since I've started rideshare, and lucky I got this car through Daniel, so I'm able to do all their services. That is Comfort, Green, X, and anyway, all of them other than the Uber Maxi and Uber XL. I do all of them. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much for having a chat with us, guys, and learning about your journey and how you've got into rideshare and some tips about how people can improve and stick with it and get some great ratings. We're going to switch back to our presentation now and talk a little bit more about bookkeeping, which is my favourite topic. Gus, can you let me know if you can see that okay?
Good.
Awesome. Good. Well, I'm just going to whiz you through some really basic tips. Now, I used to be a bookkeeper, and in fact, one of my clients was a rideshare business. So I just thought I'd take people through a few steps. As was mentioned by Daniel, when you get started, it is a requirement that you have an ABN and that you are registered for GST. So that's an important part of rideshare businesses. So a good idea is to talk to your client manager at Thrive and get all these basics set up first, because there are some websites out there that will charge you lots of money to do something with the government that is basically free. So make sure you check with your client manager so you're not spending money unnecessarily. So Daniel mentioned that there are lots of things that you can claim in your car, and it's anything to do with your car, especially if you're buying things for your customers like water or chips. But the important part is that you keep your receipts, and there's ways that you can hold on to those. It's a good idea to take photos and maybe put them into a Google Drive on your phone. Set something up so you've got one special place, not that you have them all through your receipts and your photos. It can be very difficult to find them later on. So choose a place that you can keep all of your receipts in one place. And then each time you do your BAS, you can go back over those receipts and work out what you can claim. Daniel gave some top tips around petrol and servicing your car, cleaning your car, any products that you offer to your customers as well. Daniel and Gus, feel free to jump in if I've missed anything or if I get anything wrong, because it has been a few years since I've done bookkeeping. The other top tip I have is to remember to get started on an application if things start to get a little bit complicated. Now, the reason why accounting software is very helpful is because it can speed up the process. And instead of holding on to all those receipts or having them in a file, you can quickly get them up into the accounting software and it will do those calculations for you. It also does something where it learns your processes, and again, things speed up. So there's a thing called automation, where if you upload a receipt for cleaning your car and you do that a number of times, the accounting software like QuickBooks or like Xero will actually it will learn what you've done and it will always treat that receipt the same way. So that's some way that automation can help and help you get faster. It's really important to get hold of a good bookkeeper to get set up in the first place. Because it's a good idea to learn the fastest way to input all of this information and make sure that you're doing it correctly. So if you can afford it, make sure you get hold of a bookkeeper who specialises in rideshare and can help you get set up in the first place. Even if you only just use them to actually get set up, it's a good idea. Now, just be wary of these different types of software though. Some of them can be very expensive, and if you don't need something with all the bells and the whistles and you don't have lots of staff, you can do something quite basic, and QuickBooks is a good place to start because it's quite inexpensive. If you can talk to some of your friends who are already rideshare drivers and they're using a piece of accounting software, get their advice on how they set up their accounting software as well. But definitely getting a professional to help is a good start. Another thing to think about right from the beginning is to pay super for yourself. A lot of people who own their own businesses forget to put aside money for themselves for their superannuation. And really, if you had a job, you would be being paid 11.5% super. So think about looking how much you've earned and putting aside 11.5% so that you're paying your own super too, because in time that will all add up and it will mean a great deal to you when you retire. I also wanted to make sure people are aware that it's not a great idea to be accepting cash and not declaring it with the tax office. And the reason for that is because without you maybe realizing it, the tax office can track your bank accounts and have a look at some of your transactions. And if they see that you're spending lots of money, much more than what you're earning, they're going to start asking questions about where that money is coming from. So it's really important not to be tempted into the cash economy, to think about declaring everything. But if you get yourself set up well with a good bookkeeper and some good accounting, and you claim all of those receipts, then you can actually reduce the amount of tax that you pay because you're making all of those claims properly. And the last thing to think about always, and we know that a lot of our clients are saving for not only their future in Australia, but actually for the future of their family. You need to start considering what there might be in terms of changes coming with your visa, preparing your finances for when family members come. Living by yourself, and lots of us have been through this, is very different from looking after a family and living with the family around you as you may have done previously. You have to think about getting them into school, into work, sorting out your finances, which is very different. This is a really good time to reach out to your Thrive client manager and ask for some help and start talking to people like accountants and bookkeepers so you've got everything in order. Things change dramatically. Daniel, is there anything you wanted to add to those top tips I've given around bookkeeping?
Not so much add, but just reinforce, and I mentioned it as well. Apart from fuel, or well, if you've got an electric car, that's not the case, but your biggest expense is the vehicle itself. Especially when, if you are a full-time driver, you're going to be replacing that vehicle every few years. make sure that when you're purchasing, you're getting the right invoices, especially if it's private sales. That you are actually stating what you paid for it. Private sales, some people try and do paperwork that is not correct. It's not going to be any benefit to you, because these are things that you can claim. It's things that will lower your tax. So that correct paperwork is very important, especially if you're buying from a dealership. You can claim GST. That's nearly 10% of the vehicle's value. With a Camry, because that's a very popular car, a hybrid Camry that our clients buy, that's a good $3,500 GST refund. That's not to mention depreciation and so forth. So just keeping that in mind.
Thanks, Daniel. And you just made me realise as well. Oh, pop yourself on mute. There we go. You just made me realise the moment that you start, having to do GST and including GST in the income that you earn is the same time that you can be claiming GST. And don't forget about all those general business expenses, like, stationery, or, if you need that accounting software, and any advice that you might get from someone. Just keep all of those receipts loaded up in your computer or in your phone in a particular place, somewhere you know where they are. So at the end of the year, you can go back over all those expenses and get some help about whether or not they're deductible. It's very hard to go back months and months later and try and remember where you were when you went and paid for that thing, and then you have to ask that company for that invoice. Very difficult. But if you pull out your invoice the moment you get it, you take a picture and you put it into that folder straight away, then you know that it's there and you can go back to it later. That would probably be my top tip. Daniel, do you agree?
Most definitely. Just to put in perspective, GST is pretty much on everything that you're going to be using for Uber. So I just used a very, $3,500. That's enough to change my mind and do the paperwork correctly. But even when you're buying fuel, every time you go to the fuel pump, you spend $110 on fuel. Well, guess what? $10 of that you're going to get on a refund next time you do your bus. It's just common sense, $10 a day or $10 every, that adds up over a year to something quite meaningful.
That's right. And just remember, just keep all those receipts. You can decide about whether or not they're deductible later. Well, look, I just wanted to say to everyone, thank you so much, especially to our Thrive clients, to Mungo and Mujahid, for keeping us entertained and keeping us learning about your journey. We really appreciate you sharing our story. And of course, Daniel and Gus, thank you also for joining us with your wealth of knowledge, so many years working with Thrive clients, just like the guys who have joined us today. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and thanks, Alexa.
And then last of all, of course, if you guys want to learn more about what Thrive does, please go to our website, thrive.org.au, or thriverefugeeenterprise.org.au, I should say, and reach out to your client manager. And if you know someone who might benefit from Thrive and the services that we offer, please refer them to us, and we would love to help them. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, Mujahid. Thanks, Manga.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
you, everyone.